It's strange how quiet a house can be right before it breaks. The clock on my wall read 2:03 a.m. when the world exploded. Glass shattering, boots pounding, men yelling through the dark. I didn't even scream. I just froze, watching 3 beams of light sweep across my living room, slicing through family photos and landing on me. The first thing I felt wasn't fear. It was disbelief, because this was my home. And the voices yelling for me to get down didn't even know whose door they'd just kicked in. Then one of them stopped cold. His flashlight had caught something hanging on the wall, my old FBI tactical jacket. And in that instant, the room fell silent. My name's Lena Graves. For most of my life, people called me Agent Graves, Tactical Division, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'd spent 20 years teaching others how to de-escalate conflict, how to breathe when adrenaline wanted to take over, how to walk into chaos and keep your weapon steady, your mind sharper than your fear. But after my husband died, a state trooper, gone in a highway collision, I left the bureau. I moved to a quiet suburb outside the city. A neat little neighborhood where lawns stayed trimmed, neighbors waved politely, and everyone claimed to mind their business, except they didn't. From the start, I noticed the looks. The way conversations stopped when I walked my dog. The way some people said my name like it didn't belong to the street. Little things. An HOA complaint about my unregistered vehicle. A note taped to my mailbox about noise from a barbecue I never hosted. I brushed it off. I'd seen worse. That night I was reviewing an old training manual, notes from the academy, margins filled with reminders like people first, procedure second. It always reminded me of who I was before the world taught me to armor up. The house was still. Even the refrigerator hum seemed softer. I'd almost drifted off on the couch when a low rumble started outside, an engine idling too long. Then came the sound that still echoes in my ribs. The front door exploded inward. Flashlights, boots, shouts. Police! Get down! And just like that, the peace I'd spent a decade building vanished in 10 seconds. They came for someone they thought they knew. They didn't realize the person behind this door knew them better than they knew themselves. My first instinct was survival. Not the kind people think of, not panic, not fight or flight, but pure training. Slow breath, hands visible, eyes scanning, 3 officers. One young, jittery rookie. One older barking commands, the alpha. One hanging back near the door unsure, their rifles pointed at me as I stood still beside my couch. Down now, one yelled. I didn't move. Ma'am, we have a warrant. Show it, I said quietly. But they didn't. They weren't even listening. Their focus was on my skin, not my words. I raised my hands, palms open. The younger one looked almost apologetic. The older one didn't. He reached for my arm, pulled me forward, shouting something about narcotics. My bookshelf crashed. A framed photo of my husband hit the floor, glass splintering across the tile. In that reflection, I saw everything I'd trained others to avoid. Fear masquerading as authority. I didn't resist. I didn't speak. Just let them search, my mind cataloging every detail. Badge numbers, body language, sequence of entry, because if I was still breathing when this ended, someone was going to answer for it. Minutes passed. They tore through the kitchen, the bedroom, even the linen closet. Then, from the hallway, the rookie's flashlight hit the far wall, where my jacket hung. He froze. His light caught the gold lettering, FBI Tactical Division. His voice dropped to a whisper. Sarge! The sergeant followed his gaze. I watched realization drain the color from his face. Behind them, one of their radios crackled. Negative on suspect location. Target confirmed at alternate address. Repeat, alternate address. The silence that followed was thick, almost physical. I could hear my own heartbeat. The older one lowered his weapon, muttering something that sounded like disbelief. He looked at the ID frame beneath the jacket. My credentials still valid. Then he looked at me like seeing a person for the first time. You're... he started. I cut him off. Retired, I said. But I still remember how to file a federal incident report. That silence was heavier than the boots that broke my door. Because for the first time that night, they realized the threat wasn't standing in front of them. It was staring back from the mirror. Once the confusion hit, their authority drained fast. They stammered apologies, started fumbling over explanations. Bad tip, address mix-up, routine warrant. Routine. That word almost made me laugh. I asked for their names, their badge numbers. My voice was calm even. Old habits. Document everything. They hesitated, then complied. The youngest one whispered, "Ma'am, we didn't know." I believed him. That didn't excuse it. The lead sergeant tried to take control again, but his voice shook. I walked past him, ignoring the mess of splintered wood and broken picture frames, straight to my desk, picked up my phone. Dialed one number, direct line to the Bureau's regional operations desk. When a familiar voice answered, I spoke clearly. "This is Lena Graves, retired tactical instructor. I'm reporting an unauthorized forced entry by local PD, probable cause falsified." The man on the line went silent. Then, softly, "I'll handle it, Lena." Within minutes, I could hear sirens again. But this time, they weren't here for me. A new set of vehicles pulled up outside. Commanders, internal affairs. I watched through the window as the sergeant who'd kicked my door now stood outside in the cold, answering questions under the floodlights. It should have felt like victory. It didn't, because the damage wasn't just to my door. It was to something deeper, the quiet dignity I'd spent years protecting from exactly this kind of storm. They came to serve a warrant. They left to serve a lesson. 2 days later, a news van parked down the street. Neighbors whispered behind blinds. Reporters wanted a quote. I gave none. The police chief came personally, cap in hand, apology ready. He said the tip came from a neighbor claiming suspicious activity, packages at odd hours, unknown visitors. The packages were my online orders. The visitors were my students dropping off laptops for cybersecurity training. Bias, wrapped in bureaucracy. He offered to replace the door, repaint the frame. I declined. "I'll rebuild it myself," I said, "because some things need to stay as reminders." Later that week, the youngest officer, the rookie, returned on his own time. He brought a small bouquet and a trembling apology. He said it changed how he saw everything, that he'd reread his de-escalation manual 3 times since. I believed him. I handed him an old bureau training book, the one with notes from my first class. I told him, "Read page 17. That's where real policing starts." He nodded, holding it like something fragile. Then he left, slower, quieter, more thoughtful than when he'd arrived. Weeks passed. My new door stood, same hinges, same frame, different kind of strength. Sometimes at night I still hear that first crash in my sleep. But when I wake up, I look at that jacket on the wall, and I remember that calm doesn't mean weakness. It means control. Fear made them rush in. Truth made them stop. And maybe that's how change begins. One wall, one silence, one apology at a time. People think justice is loud. But sometimes, it sounds like boots backing away and a door closing softly afterward. That night, they learned something about judgment, and I relearned something about grace. So if you ever find yourself in the dark, facing someone who misjudged you, remember this. Power isn't about shouting. It's about standing so still that truth has nowhere else to look but at you, and that's all it took for the noise to stop.